Hey everyone, I'm Meg Oliver.
And I'm Elaine Quijano. Right now, President Obama is getting ready to address the nation to try to convince skeptics that the nuclear deal with Iran is the right deal. It's a hard sell, though. The agreement now heads to Congress for debate, where lawmakers have the power to kill it. But the president has said he would veto any attempt to block it.
Some are denouncing it as a bad deal, others calling it a joke. And Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu warns this deal could lead to war. Moments ago, Scott Pelley spoke with the Israeli prime minister.
Mr. Prime Minister, this deal was signed by the United States, Russia, China, Great Britain, France, and Germany after 20 months of negotiations. In your estimation, what is it that the world powers don't get?
Well, I think that giving the preeminent terrorist state of our time access to nuclear technology that they will ultimately turn into an arsenal of nuclear weapons and hundreds of billions of dollars to finance their terror machine is bad for everyone, for them, for us, Israel, for the Arab countries around us, and for the United States. I think this is a very dangerous deal for the world. And I have to tell you, it's not only I and Israel who are saying that. Many of the Arab countries, many of them not openly, but they speak to us, they probably speak to you too, they think that this is very, very dangerous, and I agree with that. I think it's not going to turn out good.
What does the next 10 years look like to you?
Look, there are two ways that Iran can proceed. The first is they can get their way to a bomb either by cheating on the deal, or they can get their way to the bomb by keeping the deal. If they cheat on the deal, that wouldn't be too hard, because when you look at the inspection provisions in this deal, it's not inspections anywhere, anytime, as the president of Iran, Rouhani, said correctly. In fact, you have to give them not 24 hours notice inspecting a suspect site, but 24 days notice. Now, can you imagine you're a drug dealer and somebody tells you, I want to inspect your premises? That's a lot of time, 24 days, to flush a lot of meth down the toilet. So I think the inspection regime is full of holes, and I think that Iran will be able to cheat. But even if it doesn't cheat, within 10 years, they're free to build as many centrifuges as they want, and with that, they can take their mountains of yellow cake, churn it into enriched uranium, and be in a position with almost zero breakout time to rush to produce many, many bombs. So either way, I think they get their path to the bomb, even if it's delayed, but they'll get there. And the second thing they'll have is a lot of money, hundreds of billions of dollars, to give terrorists, their own terrorists and other terrorists, and that's going to endanger Israel, the Middle East, the Arab countries, and the United States.
Yellow cake, of course, being uranium. So how would you characterize the Obama administration? Naive, reckless, foolish?
Look, I respect President Obama, but we can respectfully disagree. I wish the deal was a deal that actually stopped Iran's path to the bomb and didn't finance their terror machine. But, you know, it's not only us. It's you, too. I mean, we're just the little Satan for the Ayatollahs. You're the great Satan. And just a few days ago, the so-called moderate president of Iran, Rouhani, presided at a rally in which they burned American flags and chanted death to America. This regime in Iran has killed more Americans than anyone except Al-Qaeda. This regime is building intercontinental ballistic missiles to reach every part of the United States. They're not building it for us, Scott. They already have missiles that reach us. They're building it for you. So I think this regime is a great, great danger for the world. And I think that to give them to relieve them of all these constraints on their nuclear infrastructure and give them hundreds of billions of dollars without having any change in their policy and in their behavior is a mistake. First, have Iran change, then give them all these easements. If Iran wants to be treated like a normal country, let it first act like a normal country. And that's the great flaw in this deal. It's a bad, bad deal.
You talk about the agreement making it easier for Iran to achieve a bomb, but they have to give up 98% of their uranium. They have to cut their centrifuges that enhance uranium by 2/3, and they have to allow the nuclear inspectors into their facilities. How does that make it easier? And why isn't delaying a bomb a very good deal for Israel?
because you're legitimizing their path to a future bomb within a few years. That happens very quickly. 10 years pass by very quickly. This regime isn't going to change. They'll be able to build a vast infrastructure to produce a lot of bombs simultaneously. All these limitations that you say exist today will not exist tomorrow. But the regime will exist tomorrow, and it will have the ability to produce the fissile material, enriched uranium, for many, many bombs. And I think none of us, Americans or Israelis or anyone else, wants to see Iran with that capability. And that's why in Israel, this is not a partisan issue. In the Knesset today, I heard the head of the Labor Party opposition, my opponent, joined with me in saying this is a very bad deal, and basically rejecting the deal. And I don't think it's a partisan issue in Israel. It shouldn't be a partisan issue in the United States. It's our common future. We have to protect ourselves against something that will give the #1 terrorist state of our time the means to inflict the greatest terror of all, nuclear terror.
Has the United States turned its back on Israel with this?
I think the United States is a great ally of Israel, and I appreciate the support that we receive. But on a matter as monumental as this, that affects not merely our national security, our very future, and I think affects also the future of the Middle East and the future of the United States, there can be disagreements. And there is a genuine disagreement here. And I think it's my obligation to speak up and talk about it. I believe the alliance with the United States will hold firm. I believe that despite these differences, that bond that exists between our two peoples will always be there. But it is a point of debate right now. And America is an open society. That's its great strength. It discusses things as we do in Israel.
To say the least, you have many issues with Iran. Why not invite the Iranian Prime Minister, the Iranian President Rouhani, to Tel Aviv to talk things over?
Well, you know, we had very good relations with Iran until the Khomeini revolution, which got these clerics in there. They oppressed their own people. They hang people in public cranes. They oppress women, minorities. And at the same time, they decided that they want to wipe Israel off the map. If somebody says, I'm going to destroy you, what you want to do is make sure they can't. So it's not a question of not talking to the Iranians. It's a question of what they say about us. I'd love to see a change of policy in Iran. I'd love to see a change of attitude in Iran. I'd love to see them stop the terrorism that they're plying everywhere, from Yemen to the Golan Heights, to our border with Lebanon, to Libya, everywhere. They're everywhere. And they even tried to assassinate this same regime, the Saudi ambassador to the United States. It's curious that under this agreement, the head of the Iran terror organization, Al-Quds organization, Qasem Soleimani, sanctions are removed from him. So, you're giving them the head of the Iran nuclear program, Fakhrizadeh, sanctions are removed from him. It's hard to understand how Iran is given, a lot of leeway in the nuclear field, a lot of leeway in the terror field, and this will produce peace. I think it'll produce the opposite of peace. And indeed, Iran has been the enemy of peace for everyone in the Middle East, and they're the enemy of peace in the world. They're your enemies. Don't empower your enemies. Don't let them have their yellow cake and eat it too.
Two quick points, Mr. Prime Minister. Will you personally lobby the U.S. Congress against this deal?
Look, I speak to everyone who is willing to listen. I'm speaking to you, and I'm speaking in every channel that I can speak to, because I think this is so important for the future of our world. And that's something that I feel is my obligation to do, because frankly, I think this is our stark mistake. I think it's something that will be seen to be a mistake a lot quicker than people think, because Iran is going to get its cash, a cash bonanza, with which hundreds of billions of dollars with which to fuel the terrorist organizations that it directly controls. That's the point I'm making to everyone, as I'm making now.
And finally, Israel reserves its right to take military action.
Well, I'll ask it this way. What would America do if you had a government that says, we're going to destroy you, we're going to wipe you off the face of the earth? Obviously, you have a right to defend yourselves. We have that right. It's always before our eyes, and we'll exercise it as needed.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of the State of Israel, who after this term will become the longest serving Prime Minister in the history of Israel. Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister.
Thank you. It's quite a job, I can tell you that. Thank you.
More on the fallout from the nuclear deal with Iran tonight on the CBS Evening News with Scott Pelley.